I see that. I mean, people are coming. We have attendees already. So thank you very much for coming today. It's Tech Talk Live 165 today. And we have Greg Bousley from the Highland University team who will present nice things. So I'll go. So here is today's agenda. I will be very, very quickly on community news because today, Greg is presenting the actual introduction. It will be about all the university courses and certifications. So if you want to know how to get certified with Alfresco, Greg will give you some good explanation about that. And then he will keep the lead and do his talk about exploring ActiveMQ in Alfresco. In this introduction, I would like to remind you that on Highland events, so there is a user group called Community Events, where each month, me and my team of community managers represent the entire set of Highland websites, because now we have a kind of 6-7 interesting websites to promote. There are still some works being done, and next time we should be able to present the next community website. We are finishing it and we are quite proud of the result. At least the UI is really modern and you will find a lot of resources. So don't miss this one to discover an insight. If it's released, you will have a complete tour. But if it's not released, I guess we will do a kind of insight. But it's coming. We are working really hard to finish that. For those you don't know, so it's for partners and customers. When you go on Connect, and your Highland ID is associated with a customer account or a partner account at Highland, you have access in the menu. It will be visible for you. You have access to the Alfresco user group. So join that because you will have exclusive contents, will be able to ask questions and get specific support, also relative to your partner status, for example. And Hani and Mark, my colleague, also create regular user group webinars. So they are usually in English. And if you need to, let's say, organize something in French, you just let me know and I will work with them to make it happen. Last things. So on events.highland.com. So there is also an Alfresco user group. This one is open to everybody. This is where I will list all the Tech Talk Live from now. So if you don't want to miss the next one of the best ways is actually to join this group. And so instead of leave, you will have the join button. And each time we will create a new event, you will receive a notification and all the details to RSVP and of course to attend like today. But it's now there. And as you will see, starting in January, actually last time, we are now using Bevy. So the UI we are using now is called Bevy, and it works in the browser. It's quite convenient. No need to install everything. People using Linux can use it. If you use Chrome or Firefox, it should work. So we will stay on that for now. And I'll try to fix the fact that for now, for some reason, you cannot enable your webcam and microphone. You should be able, but I need to fix something with the configuration. That said, TTL 165, Greg Bousley, it's up to you. And I stop sharing. And you can share. I will just disable my webcam, so people only see you, but I'm always there if there is an issue. Angel, I think, is in the background too, and so we usually do the Q&A at the end. So please, use the Q&A button at the bottom of the UI, and we will do the Q&A at the end. If there is a lot of questions, it happens sometimes, then we will try to answer faster by text, but let's do that. And don't hesitate to chat and so on. If you want, the chat is open. I like that. So up to you, Greg.
Well, thank you so much for the introduction. My name is Greg Bousley, and I'm instructional designer here at Highland. And it is a privilege to be here speaking to you and sharing this information. I see that Angel is also here. Thank you. I want to do a shout out to Angel because he did help me with this material. So give shout out there. And the first thing before we get into exploring ActiveMQ and Alfresco, I do want to share a little bit of information on the side of content creation coming out of education services that is geared for Alfresco. And we did talk about sharing some certification information as well as a few other updates. So let me go ahead and share that. Okay. Can you see my screen?
We can, yes, sure.
Awesome. So the first thing I want to call out is that there is an initiative to get a fair amount of training put into our Highland University. Some of the updates that we had, this is what you're seeing on the screen here under the new courses or Highland University is just 2025 alone. These are courses that we brought to bear, and we're working swift and fast to bring new courses and new material. So you see we have process services, we have architecture and BPMN fundamentals. For content services, we have repository management, architecture, auditing. There's more coming, and we're slowly kind of we're not slowly, but we're quickly trying to fill that gap between our foundational training that we offer and, of course, that advanced training. So we're trying to fill those gaps as well. And you'll see that there's a special training there. It's a process services called Intermediate Workflows. This is actually an IoT training, a 3-day course that focuses specifically on a little bit more than or above the foundational knowledge of process services and going towards the advanced. So it's an intermediate course that focuses on things like service tasks and connecting to third-party connectors like databases and sending and retrieving information and Java delegates and things like that, working with out of process methods in process services. So that's a really big call out. And you'll also see here underneath our new courses, you'll see it says there's an upgrades page. So we did produce a page that specifically focuses on upgrading your Alfresco environment, and it coagulates a lot of information there from different sources in order to get you to the information that you need to upgrade from older versions of Alfresco up to the newest version of Alfresco. And I can show that page as well. And of course, there is a page here. There's a link here that shows you the certifications. So we have a certifications page that is geared to answer questions and show you and tell you everything that you need to know to get certified or recertified in Alfresco. And it was given to me just a little bit before the meeting that there is a coupon that you can use, and it's right there on the screen. It says Tech Talk 2025. And you can use that to get, I believe, a discount on that certification. So if you have questions, let me know. And what I'll do is I can quickly move that off my screen. And of course, we don't need this. So just quickly showing you, this is our upgrades page, and you'll see that the Alfresco upgrades page does have some links here on the side. So we have links to our hands-on labs. We have a links to GitHub here, which is a great resource if you're looking for step-by-step instructions on upgrading from a 7 environment to a 23 environment. We do have documentation, different links here that link you out to the documents there that will also provide a lot more information on upgrade and upgrade pathing. And if I visit this next link that I just showed you on the screen, here is our certifications page. And on the certifications page, when you choose Alfresco here, you have all of the information and knowledge that you need, and feel free to come in here and check this out. And you also have FAQs, the Help Center, recertifying if that's what you need to do. So there's a lot of information here. It tells you what you need to do and how to get started doing that. And of course, we have I'm following this up with a demo on the ActiveMQ, so I don't want to take too much time to go through this and explain all that. But I will provide this information. I can provide a link to the information that I just shared, and I'll also provide a link to all the demo environment material as well. So that's what I wanted to share with you. I hope that was good news. So what I'll do is in the interest of time, quickly move on to actually talking about the demo that I'll be doing today, and that is exploring ActiveMQ in Alfresco with content services. And what I'm going to do today is just get an environment up and running of content services. We'll use both enterprise and community, so we'll see the differences between the two there. And I'm going to get a Java development environment up and running that is going to then go in and consume ActiveMQ messages that are running in our environment and display some data for us and show us what we can do with that data, how to get that, what does that data look like, and actually maybe get to performing specific actions based on that in our repository. So let's get started on that. And the first thing I want to do is share with you that information. So let me find that. So right here in chat, I'm going to put this link, and this link is to a GitHub page. And let me go ahead and show you that GitHub page. So on this GitHub page, this is the Alfresco auto process extension with ActiveMQ. And right here at the top, you'll see that we have a couple of activities, and I'll try to get through all three of these activities here in this session. And I'm going to go once we hit the ground on this. I'm going to go fast just to get through it. But if you have questions, feel free to ask. And I'm sure there's a lot of people here that maybe will help be able to facilitate that. Okay. Thank you. Good call on that. So let me go in and make this a public. So we'll go through all of the different, and I'll move that off the screen just in case it shows the password, which I don't think it will. Okay. So thank you, Angel. That should now be public. So if we refresh that page, you can see that hopefully that is now public. So everything that you need to perform these labs, these activities, awesome, thanks guys, is right here in this GitHub. You can clone this GitHub and you can get all of this information and get this and pull this information down. So there is a chance that I might make this private again later. So please feel free to go ahead and clone and pull this information down for you. Some of the things that you need to perform this is you need an IO account to be able to pull Alfresco images. If you don't, you can get a trial account. Here it says right here, and this is where you can get that at this link here. You do need a JDE environment. You need Java and Maven installed on your machine. And again, I'm just going to quickly go through these. And it tells you step by step on how to get those installed on your machine. When you clone this, it's going to pull down the local environment that you need to set this up. So I'm going to go ahead and start with activity 1, and this is really just going to be the basics, where we're going to get a Alfresco environment set up real quick. And here you see that inside of our activity, our Hello World OOP skeleton, we have a community and an enterprise folder. And inside of those folders is going to be a compose file. And obviously one will be for community and one will be for enterprise. And I have that already here. That environment I already have set up here in my local machine. You can see that I have a folder here. I have an OOP skeleton folder. And inside of that, I have a community and an enterprise folder. So the first thing I want to do is go ahead and get that environment up and running. So I'm going to open a new tab there. Let's see if I can make this a little bigger so that way you can easily see the text. Yes, I can. Okay, that should be big enough. So I am inside the community folder here inside terminal. And if I do an ls, you can see that there's my compose file. So I'm just going to do a docker compose up, and I'm going to go ahead and get a community version of Alfresco up and running. And while that is doing that, I can go ahead and get started on the next step of the project, which is Let me move. I'm going to move some things around and make this easier on myself. So I'm going to leave this. And I'm probably not going to be able to see chat while I start to do this because I'm using both monitors now. So if a question comes up, someone please feel free to interrupt me if I need to answer a question about something. So I'll try to navigate as best as I can. So in the guide, if you're kind of following along, if you're looking at the GitHub page, I'll be using kind of the step-by-step guide that's on the ACS OOP skeleton markdown page. So the first thing that I want to do as I come in here and my environment is getting up and running, I want to come back out to this level, and I'm going to go into and start a new tab here in terminal at this level here in my OOP skeleton. So if I do an LS here, I should see my community and enterprise folders. And what I want to do is I want to build a Maven project. So here I am going to just enter this code here that is going to use the Maven generator to generate a new project. So that was quick and easy. Usually it takes a little bit of time, but it's going to ask me for the essential information that I need to create this project. So I'm going to go ahead and enter that. So the very first thing is the group ID, which will be org Alfresco. The artifact ID I'll need, I'm going to call this project OOP Hello World. This will be version 0.8, and I'll leave the package as org.alfresco. And when it asks me if I'm ready to build, I will hit yes and build success. So what did that just do? So I just told the Maven generator to generate a Maven project. And if I go back to my files and I go into the folder that I specified, you can see that it built a OOP Hello World. Now I just misspelled hello. I do realize that. I don't think that'll gig us later, so I'll go ahead and go with it. So it created the file structures that we need. The most important thing is it created that POM XML file for us, and you can see that it created this Java package or not package, but this file structure that we need. So I'll need to go into my Java development environment, my client, and go ahead and open this as a project. And I'll go ahead and bring that over on my screen here. File, open, and let's go into my demo, and I'm going to find that POM file, and there it is. So I found that POM file, open. I'm going to open that as a project. Sure, let's trust it, and let's bring over that project window, and I'll go ahead and make that about as full screen as possible. So here is my my JDE client with my project. You see on the left side hierarchy, you can see I have the POM file here, and I have all of my Java files here. So this is now the project. The very first thing that I want to do is I'm going to go in and just delete this app test file because it could present a bug later, and we're not going to use that file. So I'm just deleting the app test file there. And now I can actually get started on developing and putting in the information that I need for my project. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to go into the POM file, open that up. I double click that, it opens it up into my main pane here. And you can see that I have the essentials, the basic essentials that a POM file needs, but I'll need to specify parent directories, dependencies, and things like that. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy over this and just paste in some new headers. So I have a brand new project XML headers here, and I'm going to put in the information that I need for this project to run. So we do need the essentials. We need to specify the name and the group ID and artifact that needs to match what we put in there. I do see I have an artifact ID of OOP Hello World. I might need to change that for the spelling. Hopefully that doesn't come back to bite me because I did misspell that earlier. So let me input the next information. So I'll need to specify that when I package this project, that it needs to be a jar file. And I also need to specify the artifact, the parent artifact that this project will inherit its the necessary properties from. And I'll specify the properties of the file, which are essentially just variables that can be used from within the project. I'll paste in the repositories that I need as well. And I need to also declare dependencies that the project needs to fetch these external libraries from. So I've declared these dependencies here. And finally, the last piece of information that I'll put in here is the plugins, the necessary plugins for the build section that Maven needs to actually build the project. So I just have, that is all the information that I need in my POM file. And whenever we make an update to your dependencies and your repositories, you need to refresh the file as well. So that way your project will begin pulling that information. It can be used later. So let me do that. So I'll right click the POM file, go down to Maven, and reload the project. And for me, that'll be quick and easy because I've done this before. And if this is the first time that you've done that, then you might get a progress bar. That may take a minute to grab all that information. But now that that is done, I'm ready to move on to the next step. And that is to create a directory for my application properties file. So we need a properties file that's going to tell this application, that's going to set a few standards and tell the application what it needs to run. And where I'll do that is right here under my main folder. And I'll just close some of this stuff that we don't need. So here under main, I'll specify that I need a new directory. And I'm going to call this resources. And within the resources folder that I just created, I'll need a new file. And I'm going to call this application.properties. Make sure I spelled that right. I do misspell things. There we go. Okay, so I will paste in some information here that I need to initially set for this file. I do have code comments in here that tell you what's happening. The first thing we need to do is we need to specify where the ActiveMQ client will be running, and that'll be in localhost at this port. And then we'll specify if we want the Spring Boot auto define. We're gonna set some things to false right off the bat here. Spring integration handlers will be set to false, and we want the events enable handlers set to true. So that way we can catch the ActiveMQ events, and we want to enable that operation. So now that I'm done, and I'll save that file, setting up my properties, we can go into the actual Java class file that's going to run and implement this application. And that's already created for us, and it's found under the org Alfresco directory here. So I'll just double click that and open up that file. Now to lay the groundwork for what I'll need to do, I'll need to establish my imports. So you can see that we're importing from the Spring Framework boot Spring application. So we'll need a few things that we import there. And we also need to call to that and make sure that we have a reference for that. And I'll put that there as well. So we have the Spring Boot application. And what I need to do is I need to get rid of this, this function within the class and put in my own function that's going to do what I want it to do. And you'll see here now that since we have the Spring Boot application, we need to call that and run that Spring Boot application. So essentially what this class is now going to do is it's going to really just run our Spring Boot application. Now this isn't actually going to, the code that's specific that's going to consume the ActiveMQ events. So we need to create a class that now is going to be called to actually consume the ActiveMQ event. And what I'll do is first create a node created handler class. So let's go ahead and do that. So where I do that is right here under the org Alfresco folder. I will create a new package. and I will call this just handler. So this will be org.alfresco.handler. And inside of the handler package, I need a new class. Now the name of this class, I'm going to paste this in because I don't want to misspell anything. I'm going to call this node created handler. And you can see that we are giving just the bare bones class file here with no information. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy over that and paste in the class information that I need. So now we are importing the on node created event handler, and we're implementing that here in our class. And I have this function here that is going to catch the event, and it's going to pass that event here and use that here where we're going to create a node resource, a variable type called node resource. It will go into the event here, and it's going to do a couple of functions where it's going to get the data and get a resource object. And I'll talk a little bit more about what that is right after this particular test, so that way we understand what that means to get the data and get our resource. But once we get our data and get our resource, we're now able to use that node resource variable and get the name of the resource. So this is the mechanism that is responsible for consuming that active or catching that ActiveMQ event handler and bringing that event in and then getting the information from it. And so now that I have that, I can save that. And this project is now ready for us to actually test in our environment that we have. So going back over to my my browser, I just want to make sure that my environment is up and running. And I'll just go ahead and enter in the localhost 8080 share, and you can see that my community environment is actually running. So I'll log into that and let that sit on the main page. And I'm ready to go ahead and test building this project and then deploying it to that project. And we know that it's going to be looking for ActiveMQ here at that port. So let's go over, and what I'll do is open up a terminal window and we'll package this project. Okay, we have a build success, so we've actually built the project. And now I will deploy the project, not that command. I will deploy the project using this java-jar command, targeting my environment, and we should now have a deployed package. So what are we testing? What did we do? So we created this node created handler. I just explained what this is doing. So obviously we're looking for a node created event. So that means I need to create something. And what we should get out is we should get a system printout of this line, hello world, and the name of the node that is created. So the easiest way to test that functionality is just to go into my environment, go into shared files, and let's just create something. You can see that I already have some test files created in here. I haven't done a down yet. So all that information is still sitting in my my containers. So I'll go ahead and create a plain text file. And today, this is February 19th. So I'll just say Tech Talk February 19th test and say this is a test and hit create. So there's my test file I just created. Did it work? And if we come back over to our JDE, you can see that we now have this printout that says hello world. And there's the name of that file. So my code is actually working. I just consumed that ActiveMQ message. I use these functions to get the data object, to get our resource object, and then to get to the name and drill down into that that object and get the name of the resource that was created. So let's switch gears a little bit and talk about what that looks like from the ActiveMQ side of it. And we're gonna, if you're looking at the GitHub page, this is under the Activity2 header, and this is the event models. So let me just briefly share that information with you before we move on. I'm gonna do a time check and make sure we're still good on time. This is quite a bit of information. So let's talk quickly about event models. If you're new to ActiveMQ administration, then you'll need, there's a little bit of information that we can cover, and I'll be brief on this and I won't drill down too deep just in the interest of time. But it helps to look at these objects to see what's in them and how we're getting that data. So we just did a node created event. We just created a file and we caught that message. So I'll look at an example of a node created event, and you can see that these the JSON structure is very similar in all of these events. And you'll see right off the bat that at the root level, you have a data object and you have a resource object, which coincides with how we were getting the data and getting the resource and then getting the name. So you can see you actually have the name and there's your name. So in the data resource object, you can see that you have quite a bit of information that's going to tell you what you need to know about that node. Is it a folder? Is it a file? Who it was created by? And a lot of information. One thing to point out about this when you're going through all this information is you have this primary hierarchy object. And the primary hierarchy is really just an array of nodes that tell you where is this file sitting within the repository. And you can see that I have 2 strings here inside of the primary hierarchy, and that tells me that this file is sitting 2 folders deep in my repository. So essentially, if it was 10 folders deep, you'd have this array of 10 strings here that are the actual node ID of each one of those folders. But moving on, and of course, under each one of these, I kind of stipulate that information here. So if you're reading this later at your own pace, you can kind of go through that same information. But that was covering a node created event. Anything that is not a node deleted or a node created event usually falls under a node updated event. So file name change, file content, file is moved, those are all would be considered a node updated event. And you can see the type is right up here at the top, and you can see that it is event node updated. So this particular example is going to be one of node moved. So let's look at a key piece of information that you can find out without knowing what this is, without it telling you right there that this is a node moved. How would you know what changed? So there's a key piece of information inside of the updated events that will tell you that type of information. So we still have the same layout of data resource where you can find all of the key information specific to that resource. But if you scroll down and you look at the object here is called resource before. And this tells you, this will capture information specific to the change. The information inside the resource before object won't always be the same depending on what changed. So inside of this resource before object, you'll see it says the primary hierarchy. That should tell me that what changed about this file is its location. Otherwise, there would be something else here in the resource before object. If the content changed, we would see a content object. And if we really want to, we can compare this. So we can say, okay, well, CF D8 FB. And if I come up here to the top where I see the primary hierarchy, you can see it's CF D8 A0. So this topmost ID has changed, telling me that this file most likely was moved laterally to a folder sitting at the same level. And so on and so forth as we go down and look at other event types. Content changed. You can see that this is still an updated type. But if we scroll down and look at our resource before, we can see that now we have a content node, a content object, which is giving us some information about that content. And we can look at the current, we can compare that to the current resource up here, find the content object, and compare that information. So it looks to be the same. So it's not going to tell you what changed inside the file, but in some cases where content was added or content changed drastically, or the content type has changed, you can see that information. So here you would see the resource before is of type node resource, and you can see that before this change, the content is empty. It's an empty object. And if we come up here and look at the content, the current content, we can see that is now, so in this case, the content has changed. And it's showing you the difference. So I won't spend too much more time talking about that. I wanted us really just to understand and kind of get a base level of what's inside these active messages. So I think now we're ready to move on to to going back to the Java environment and actually consuming the message and displaying that message data. So I'm going to go ahead and stop that deployment and get back into making some changes that are actually going to show me the ActiveMQ messages. So the first thing that I'll do, is I'm going to rely on the event generic transformer to produce that information for me. So I'll go into my application properties file, and I'm just going to paste some information in there that is going to set the event generic transformer logging level to debug. And the other thing I want to do is make sure that I enable my Spring integration. And I'm going to go ahead and change this to true. And the next bit of changes that I'll need to do is back in my app Java file so that I can now enhance this and make it do the thing, the stuff that we want it to do. So I'll lay the groundwork by importing my Spring Framework Spring Boot applications. And we'll also do quite a bit of other things here where we're now integrating the event types, and we want to integrate the logger and the logger factory and bring that in as well. So in my class, I'm going to add a function. And what this function will do is it will now enable the logger or engage the logger. And we're going to create a variable for that here, and then we're going to implement that, and we're going to filter for and look for node created events. And when we find those events, we want to go ahead and log here inside of our console that a new node type of typed content has been created, and it's going to get that event and display that payload. So this will be the code responsible for catching that and then displaying that for us. So since I'm kind of going step by step just to make sure that everything is functioning, I'm going to go ahead and deploy this and just test that to make sure that's working. So now that I'm deployed, I can go back to my environment, and I can create another file, and I can test that that is actually working for me. So we'll do test talk or tech talk, and we'll call this test 2. This is a test. Okay, so I've got quite a bit of information that's now reporting to my console. And if I want to, I can make this easy on myself, and I can grab this, just do a copy, find, paste, and I can paste that in and find exactly what I'm looking for. So you can see that we are now grabbing that the ActiveMQ event object, and here is my call out here. And here is the exact same data resource object that we saw earlier. It's not as pretty as it was before, but we can see that we have all of the essential content here as well. Here, so we have our data object, we have our resource object, and we can see all that information here. We can see who created this file, when it was created, and essentially all the things that we saw earlier. So now that I have that information, what's the next step? Well, I want to be able to filter out specific informations, or maybe someone's asking me in my environment, well, we need to find a method that is going to specifically catch updated events or when a file is changed. So if we want to catch when a file has changed, we do need a different class, or we need to be able to look at node update events. So that brings us over to the next activity, if you're looking at the GitHub. I'm getting there, my GitHub, there you go. Okay, So if you're looking at the GitHub page, that brings us to what's on there is the activity 3, node event listeners. And what we're going to do now is switch gears, and we're going to look at how we can consume a node update event. And I'm going to take this step a little bit further, and I'm going to assume that what I'm being asked to do here is I want to be able to see when a file has been edited by someone other than its creator. So we have a file that was created by someone, let's say person A, but then person B has gone in and edited the file. And I want an easy way to say, okay, well, now someone who has not created that file has gone in and edited that file. And I can do that here by consuming the ActiveMQ messages. I can look at that information, I can compare that, and then I can actually do something inside of the environment to make that call out. So we're going to make that easy. So let me go ahead and start laying in the groundwork for the next step that we're going to do. So the first thing I'll need to do is I'll need to add a dependency to my POM file in order to get that to work. So I'm going to do that right here. I'm going to give a little bit of padding here so you can see that this is where I'm adding that. Since I've added that dependency, I'm going to go ahead and close the terminal window. Since I added the dependency, I want to reload the POM file just to make sure that that doesn't trip me up later. So I'm going to hit reload on that. And since that is done now, it's now time for me to build that other class. So we have the node created handler class, but now we need a node updated class. So I'll create that in the same way that I did earlier, where here we have the handler folder, and now we need that new class. So I'll just go new, Java class. And I'm going to copy and paste because I don't want to misspell anything. So node updated handler is what I'll now call this new class. And just in the interest of time, I will go ahead and paste all of the code that I want in here and get kind of at a base level with what I'm going to use. So there's a few imports here that you can see that we're not quite using yet. We have the comments API and the comment body. We'll use that in just a minute. But now you can see that we're using the event filtering, so which will allow us to filter events to catch only specific events that we want. And we're also now we're now importing the node updated event handler, which is, and you'll see that the class is implementing the node updated event. So the first thing I would want to do is declare a node resource object, which I don't think I'm doing, but I'll do that now. So inside of the class, I'm going to declare a node resource object. Excuse me, I'll do that inside the handle event function because it is actually calling for the event here. I put that in the wrong spot first. So the first thing that I'll do is in my handle event, the function that I'll actually be handling this event is just going to be grabbing that event, and then we're going to do the same thing we did earlier where we're creating a node resource variable and grabbing that node resource. I will be relying on the logger to get that data. So I'll place that in there as well. And the next bit of code that I am going to use is I'm going to put an if statement in here that is going to check the content and make sure that it's not null. So as you can see earlier in our test, when we engaged the generator, we had a lot of information. There's a lot of different update events that we can catch. When one file is changed, it may change other files, or it may make other changes to other nodes that are in association. And if we just have a blanket, if we just cast a wide net, we're going to catch a whole lot of events. So I want to make sure that we're actually targeting something that has content. I want to make sure that I'm catching something that is a file and has content to it. So I'm going to hopefully cast a smaller net and get the information that I need. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I want to just put a call out just for sanity check. I'm going to put a call out here that is going to print out to the system, this content has been modified. Now, the next thing that I'm going to need is another if statement. So at this level, inside of this if statement, we know that at this point, we have just caught an updated node that has content. So a node that is a content file has just been modified. So we know that this has happened. But now we want to drill in a little further, and we want to catch if this is a case where the content file was updated and the ID of the modified user is not equal to the ID of the created user. So I'm saying the get modified user of the node resource, get the modified user, get that user's ID. Is it not equal, right there? We're saying, is it not equal to the ID of the created user? So very simple. We're just seeing if it's a different person who is updating this file. And in the case that it is, we're going to print out this doc was modified by someone other than the creator. So at this point, I should be able to test this to see if that is actually up and running, or if that will function within our environment. So let me go back to my terminal window. And I'm going to go ahead and package that. Build success, great. And then I will deploy it. It looks like I have a small error. Let's see if that and I'm not getting any errors there, so let's see. And I'm just checking to make sure I didn't miss any steps, because it looks like And that is an unforeseen error, and I'm trying to figure out if I missed a step, and I don't think that I did. And let me just do a quick sanity check here. Okay. So evidently there was a step that I may have just I went over and missed in setting one of my, it probably had to do with setting something here in the properties file. So I do apologize for that. It ate up a little bit of time. But the good news is that I kind of went ahead and completed the next step, which is going to save us a little bit of time. So this is still the node updated handler class. And the step that I just added that I was going to test and then come back and add this, but in the interest of time, it's better that I just went ahead and added this information. So you can see that we're still getting the content. We're still saying this content has been modified, and we're checking the user. We're saying, okay, does equal the modified user or the modified user equal the creator? We're saying that this doc was modified by someone else, but also what I'm doing is I'm deciding to do, and earlier you saw that when I imported the comments, now I'm going to go ahead and create a new comment body. I'm going to set the content of that comment body to be edited by user, where I'm grabbing the node resource and entering, getting the modified user's ID and appending that to this string. And then I will create a comment within the Alfresco repository that will then grab the ID or use the ID, add the comment body, and it's going to create a comment on that node. So we already know that we're getting a content node because we're filtering that out. So let's go ahead and see if that's up and running. So this is now up and running in the environment. My environment is still running, but what I need to do quickly is I need to go ahead and I need to do this on an actual site. So I'm going to go ahead and just go into the sample web design project site, go into the file library and create a file. So let's create a plain text file. And I'm going to say that this file is created by admin. So this file is created by admin. That's who I am currently logged in as. So we'll just put test in the description. So I'm logged in as the administrator, and I just created this file, and the file is called created by admin. But that doesn't really facilitate the specific requirements of what our Java package is looking for. It's looking for to see if something was edited by someone other than the user. So real quick, I'm going to just create that user. So let's create a new user. This would be called, we'll name him Greg Bousley. Let me just input some of this information. I'll call him G Bousley, password of, hopefully that satisfies the password requirements. Yes, it did. Sure, why not? So I've just created that new user. I'll be able to go to my sites, and I'll need to add that user to my site. So I'm going to add that user here, users here. Let's see. There he is. I will select him. I'll make him a manager, and then I'll add him. So Greg is now added to the site, and now I can log in as Greg, and then I can go in and edit that file because that is the parameters that we need to achieve here in our test. So let me go ahead and log out and log in. So here I am. I am now logged in as Greg Bousley. I go to the directory here, and I can see I have this file here created by admin. So what I want to do is I want to go ahead and just edit this in Alfresco share, and I'm going to add some lines to the content and say, edited by me, GB. And we're going to hit save. So now I have actually fulfilled the requirements of what our package should be trying to catch. And if I want to look for specifically, I can come in and say, okay, well, this doc was modified by someone other than the creator. I can find that. And you can see there it is. I'm actually getting that message. And here is from the event transformer that we set up earlier in lab 2. This is the ActiveMQ message that I get. But more importantly, we added this code here in our updated handler class to specifically create a comment on that node to see if we can just to call out that it was updated by someone else. And here we are in the comments of this file. You can see that the administrator has created a comment that this file was edited by user G. Bousley. And that brings me right up to the top of the hour, right at the end of that particular lab. And when I can find, there we go. Okay, that's the end of that lab. Just briefly, we set up that Java environment. We were catching and consuming ActiveMQ messages coming from our repository. What I didn't have time to show you is that there is a main difference between catching events from community version of Alfresco and enterprise version of Alfresco, and it takes a little bit more time to spin up the enterprise version. So I focused on community just because it was quicker to get up and running. But the important thing to note that when you're consuming ActiveMQ messages from those two versions of the product is that you actually get a little bit more data when you in the ActiveMQ messages on enterprise, which is going to show you the authorized users for that content. It'll show you who has access to that content and who has denied access to that content. And those will be in the ActiveMQ messages as just an extra, as an object in that message.
Okay, nice. And by the way, between the difference between enterprise and community, I know that Angel posted an answer about that in the chat, because with new version, it's less different for what I understand. But you're using the version that you use for your training, so that's fine. We have, I know it's 5 p.m. in 1 minute, but if it's okay, we have 3 questions. So one is from Luis Colorado. This event catching is way more straightforward than setting up auditing in Alfresco. Do you have any thoughts on that? Are there still cases where auditing should be used? Because it could be better or something like that.
So I think the question was, is there a case where instead of using event catching, is there a use case for when auditing should be used instead of event catching?
Yes. So if Angel is still here and maybe he has the answers, maybe that could help, because as an expert, sometimes he has some good insight. But maybe also if someone has a question, do not hesitate to tell in the chat. Right now, I don't know how to enable everybody to enable webcam and microphones. That's a drawback of this new system we use for webinars. I'm working on that with the provider, but right now it doesn't have this feature like Zoom. But so use the chat. Angel, if you're here, let me know. It may be Angel move to another meeting. But I mean, I can find, record that and find the answer for later in the wrap-up article. Let me know.
So I know, so you saw how I was able to filter events, and I was able to use custom logic to filter those events. There's other ways to filter events in there as well. But I feel like when we're talking about, and here's Angel, and I know that Angel can answer this question way better than me. So I may default to Angel if he wants to answer it. But I know you can do a lot more intrinsic things with auditing.
Yeah. So, okay. So the question is related to audit and to events, right?
Yeah.
So from a technical point of view, both are different features. So an event is something that is happening in the system that is affecting to a node or to a record inside Alfresco, but an audit entry is something that may be more complex. For instance, a user that is logging, this may not change anything in the Alfresco repository. And even with that, that is an audit entry. For instance, a user search, the query of the user search, that is also an audit entry, but it's not an event, or maybe not a single event, but many of them, right? So we don't need to mix the features provided by audit and the features provided by this event system, right? So in the same way, monitors and other events, such as logging into Alfresco, we are in the same use case, right? So the events are only sending events when something is happening in Alfresco in relation to a node, right? We can grow this event system. This is what we do. So this is why we have the new audit system that is relying in events in version 23.4.0, right? I will be posting about this on the next week, but it's an audit system that is relying in events instead of relying in the database as before, right? So, okay, we can use both, relying on events on message, on a queue, right? But they are different features. And we were talking today about the one related to nodes.
Okay. Next question. So, can we also monitor events such as logging into Alfresco?
Yeah, that's the same thing I was commenting before. Yeah.
Okay, nice. But it's just to quote the question at least. And last question from Luis: what happens if there are two consecutive content changes pushed into the queue? Could it be possible that the code tries to retrieve the newer content version instead of the original one? Or there is something to avoid that?
So the order is preserved. So if you have more than one consumer, then you need to take care about this, but the order is preserved. So you are consuming always the events in the order they are pushed to the queue, right?
Okay, nice. Okay, so we are quite late and there's no more question. So let's finish that. I would like to thank a lot Greg, because preparing all that takes time. Thanks also for the insight about the Highland University, by the way. And so let's meet in 1 month. I'm finishing to see what we will have, but I hope it will be quite exciting. It's been a long time since someone talked about that. And the speakers, if he is okay to talk, I know that everybody will really want to attend. So I tease just, but it should be a very good one also. So Greg, because it's someone from the community, and I appreciate, and people appreciate. Greg, it's not for you, but it's people appreciate when it's not someone from Highland who is speaking in the TikTok Live. So that's the purpose. That's why it's exciting for me, because it's been some time now that we have only Highland speakers, and it's been difficult to find third party people who want to commit to talk in the TikTok Live. So that's why I'm quite excited with that. Anyway, guys, have a nice day. Thank you a lot for attending, and as usual, I will handle the recording and share it as soon as possible on Connect in the Alfresco blog. So see you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Ba. Thank you.